implementation that's pretty common or popular nowadays, especially in microservice architecture. Of course, basically ACI is a lighter version, you can say, at a high level, that it is a lighter version of the AKS. AKS provides more complex scenario, more complex orchestration, basically, but ACI is for a lighter load. It is not meant for a heavy load thing. For heavy load is still for cluster environment, for like cluster kind of containers, you still would like to go with the AKS, not with ACI. ACI is a lighter version of it. Of course, it is lighter, so it is fast, it is simple, and you don't need to have a setting like complexity of AKS. Sometimes I have like heard people saying that AKS that is good, but for simple scenario, for not too complex scenario, it gives way too many options to configure, and sometimes it looks like it is not so. It takes time to kind of set it up and manage. So ACI is something that addresses that thing, that if you don't have too complex scenario and too many complex applications, so you can prefer to also go with ACI, right? It is a PaaS offering, as you were seeing that this VM says IaaS offering, so this is a PaaS performance service offering. Okay. Now Kubernetes. So Kubernetes, as you were saying, that if you need a large number of containers, right? Your application may have like, you need different containers for database, API layer, front end. It is real enterprise application kind of, and you want more control on spinning different basically images into that containers and manage them, like spin up new one, keep monitoring the different basically images into the container. So all those scenario, and also automation you want to establish, right? So those kind of scenarios, and of course when we talk about microservice architecture, we typically wants to have any service sitting on a container. So that's what this microservice is kind of at a high level. We try to complement with containers so that we have more control in terms of not waiting for other services to be present when we want to scale up. Okay, so suppose I have 2-3 services. Maybe let's take an example of e-commerce site. So maybe I may host you can say payment service into container A. I may host basket service in container B, and I may host catalog that comes initially into maybe container number 3. So these 3 can be the different images, right? Again, in API side, I may do something similar or different based on the load of the application, how many users are going to be using that. And of course, I may have, again, more than one containers for, if it is a NoSQL scenario, I may go for Cosmos or Mongo. And if it is relational, I may go for MySQL or SQL Azure, right? So what I'm trying to say that applications which are complex in nature, AKS is the right platform for containers, container deployment. If it is a simple one, it is not too complex, ACI can be used. Okay. We were talking about functions at a high level, so let's talk a little more on that. It is coming from serverless side of the Azure computing or Azure computing platform. It gives you kind of a event-driven feel. So you, of course, now we also have durable functions that is not here, but I'm just trying to bring in so that you understand it. We do have a durable functions that also use for stateful kind of scenario, but they are like, you can say, specialized kind of functions, and they're kind of rare scenario when you might want to use a stateful kind of functions. But in general, by default, Azure functions are meant for, you call it, you have some logic sitting in functions, you make a call from your service, you get a result. It's like that. So it's like event driven, right? You're calling, you can assume that as any other functions that see, the name is also Microsoft brought this function name just to keep a good analogy with the real deployment, right? We all write some code, some in functions, sometimes we also call it method. So what we do, we have some code setting in, we pass some parameters, and we expect some result, right? So that's how Azure Function also works. Of course, it has different, we call it triggers, means how it should be called, whether it should be called with HTTP, some API call is coming, it should do some calculation and return it, whether it can be timer function, whether I want to set it up that, hey, you please keep running and please run maybe X hours in Y in a day in a week, like that. Any other scenario. There are a bunch of other functions also that can be used. Okay. I was saying about logic apps. It is again a serverless compute options that is out there, and it is for orchestration scenario. Now, the main thing, you heard of it. Now, you may be wondering that, okay, fair enough. Can I get more information on when to use what? So here, not just the thing that we talked about. Here you will see more options, basically. More options, more compute options. As I was saying, that there are several other options also available that we may not be able to cover in this session. But for the sake of knowledge, we can talk about here. Okay, so let's begin this thing, and it's an interesting flow. Actually, it gives pretty decent look on some of these options. So think about it. You want to migrate any application or building new. There's some old application and you want to migrate, or you want to write something from afresh, from scratch. So that there is a first question, right? If it is building new, you want full control. Remember, we were talking about control when we were discussing about VMs. So VMs comes when you want full control. You want a pakka machine actually that we want to play around with. You don't want any abstraction on that, right? Then VMs is a preferred option, right? We don't want control, like you don't want that much control. Rather, you want this lesser control, and you want a HPC. What is HPC here? High power computing. Means you want more computing power, right? In that case, Azure Batch is also one service that is out there in compute now. It provides you like complex scenario when you want huge computing power, like you want a bunch of VMs sitting for you, and they're performing high computing jobs. So Azure Batch is service again, is part of the compute platform. So in case of high performance compute, Azure Batch is a way to go. Okay, if there is a case, if that is not the case, then see your application that you're writing. We are only not building new application, by the way, right? If you look at from right side top, if it is a microservice architecture, means you want to have different services in a microservice setup. You want domain-based bunch of services for you in API side. If it is the case, keep moving. If not, if it is just a monolith service, you may go with app service. App service is meant like it is not kind of it will do the job for you. You can have maybe a couple of app service and you're good. But if you're really looking for microservice, keep moving, because when we talk microservice, we typically complement that with a container. So keep moving. Again, in your moving, do you need a workload where you want event-driven kind of thing? Like if there is some call and there is something happens for short-lived, like you call something and you expecting a quick result, then yes, go for functions. That's what we discussed before some time, that it is like make a call and get a result. It is not meant for a huge like long running kind of processes, right? If yes, go for Azure function. If no, keep moving. Remember we talked about container stance and AKS before some time. So again, this question came: do you need full-fledged orchestration? Keep moving. If not, if you want a decent one, go for container instance, it will provide you a basic container features that should be good enough for a non-complex scenarios, straightforward scenarios. If it is a basically complex scenarios, like full complex scenario means you want like complex features of orchestrations, you have many clusters and you want management of those clusters also, then of course you have two options. One is Fabric. It is there from quite some time, but guys, I'll be honest, not many people are using Fabric, though it may sound like that I'm a Microsoft tech guys and lover, but in reality, AKS is getting used more. The reason is that it gives you more like options to today you are in Windows, tomorrow you can also deploy in Linux and Mac, right? Whether at the same time, if it is a Fabric, it is meant for typically for Windows. So again, if you're not thinking for platform kind of like cross-platform kind of scenario, then of course you can go with Fabric. However, in most cases, what I've seen that people look for something that feature ready, right? So they may not just stick for one platform. In that case, AKS is a go-getter. Okay. So these are the options for when we want to build something new. Let's now consider about we have some application already and we want to migrate it. That is a very common scenario, guys. By the way, not many companies have, or in India at least, what I know is that very few companies have applications which are getting written from scratch, right? Mostly starters, but the big companies who have lakhs of employees, they basically mostly kind of go for some kind of migration because they take multi-million project for many years, and that's what the typical this dollars comes from for their survival and to feed the lakhs of employees they have. So migration is what I'm trying to say, that migration is something that is pretty common phenomena in the industry, and let's talk about that. Again, lift and shift, right? In case you guys don't know what is lift and shift, it is a cloud, you can say cloud migration approach. So one is lift and shift, other is cloud migration, like upgrade. You're literally rewriting everything. It's like rewrite, you can say. So lift and shift is what? Lift and shift is something that you have something already working in local machines or local servers. You want to move them into the cloud. You can say like VMs or any other way. So you don't want to change the code, rather you just want to lift and shift, literally the same meaning, like lift from here and shift into cloud. What benefit you will get? You will benefit like that somebody else is managing your hardware. It is no more your hardware, right? So at least hardware scalability you will get. There is some advantage at least than managing everything from yourself. Of course, you will not be able to get the cloud native advantage, means you will not be able to get the other capabilities of cloud or other features of cloud. That generally comes in cloud native, because cloud native is application that is designed for cloud, means that is typically people loosely say that is a microservice application because it will be able to use the real benefits of the cloud. So if it is, let's back to the conversation. So if it is a lift and shift, keep moving. If it is you want no, it's not lift shift. You want to rewrite it, means you are basically saying it's a cloud optimized and cloud ready, like cloud native kind of application. Then you again come back to the where we were starting here, like PC and microservices, right? You go with all kind of chain. If it is lift and shift, again, one more question may come on that whether you can containerize at least, whether you can put different, suppose that is a monolith, maybe you may have some, basically, let's say you have I'm talking about a traditional one, so you may have MVC UI, you may have maybe WCF service, or maybe SQL Server software, right? SQL Server. So if you want to keep these three into different containers, is it a possibility?